I'm 75 years old, and 4 months ago, a doctor told me I have 6 months to live. Pancreatic cancer, stage 4, nothing they can do. I sat in that office listening to him explain my options, which weren't really options, and all I could think was, I never left. I was born in this town, grew up here, went to school here, got a job here, and I'm gonna die here, in the same 10-mile radius I've lived my entire life.
Not because I loved this place so much I couldn't bear to leave. Because I was afraid, and I told myself that fear was practicality, that staying safe was being smart, that someday, when the timing was right, when I had more money, when I felt ready, I'd do all the things I wanted to do. Someday never came. And now I have 6 months. Here's what nobody tells you about playing it safe. Safety is an illusion. The only thing you're actually protecting yourself from is living. And at the end, it's not the failures you regret. It's all the things you were too afraid to even try. I'm making this video because I see people everywhere doing what I did. Turning down opportunities because they're scary. Staying in comfortable situations that make them miserable. Making plans for someday while their actual life passes them by. And I need you to know what it costs because I'm about to die, having never really lived. Let me tell you what happened. 4 months ago, I started having stomach pain, bad pain. I ignored it for weeks because I don't like doctors, don't like hospitals. Too risky, too many things could go wrong. Finally got bad enough that I couldn't ignore it. Went to the ER. They ran tests, found the cancer. It had spread everywhere. Liver, lungs, lymph nodes. The oncologist, young guy, maybe 40, he sat down with this serious face, said, I'm sorry to tell you this, but you have about 6 months, maybe less. We can do palliative care to manage pain, but there's no treatment that will stop this. I nodded. Said okay. Asked what I needed to do. He started explaining hospice care and pain management. And I sat there thinking about a journal I keep in my nightstand drawer. It's full of lists. Things I was going to do someday, places I wanted to visit, jobs I wanted to try, people I wanted to reconnect with, experiences I was going to have when the timing was right. I've been keeping that journal for 40 years, adding to the lists, never crossing anything off, just waiting for someday. And now, someday is never. Let me tell you the biggest lie I told myself my entire life. I'm being practical, I'm being responsible. I'll do those things when it's safer. When I have more money, when I'm more established, when I'm ready. There's no rush. I have time. You know what? That's not wisdom. That's not being careful. That's not planning for the future. That's fear pretending to be prudence. I see people everywhere, young people especially, and they're all saying some version of this. I'll travel after I pay off my student loans. I'll change careers when I have more savings. I'll ask her out when I'm more confident. I'll move to that city after I'm more established. I'll start that business when the economy is better. Let me save you 50 years of regret with one simple truth. There is no perfect time. Waiting for safety is waiting forever. And the things you don't do will haunt you more than the things you try and fail at. You know why? Because failure is at least a story. Failure means you tried. Failure means you lived. But never trying? That's just emptiness. That's a life of what if, and I wish I had, and it's too late now. And before you know it, you're 75 with a terminal diagnosis and a journal full of things you'll never do. When I was 22, I got a job offer in San Francisco, software company. They were just starting out, wanted someone to help build their systems. The pay wasn't great, but it was a chance to be part of something new. A chance to live in a real city, see the ocean, start over. I turned it down. Too risky, too far from home. What if it didn't work out? What if the company failed? What if I couldn't make friends? What if I hated it? I told myself I was being smart. Staying here, taking a safe job at the local bank, that was the responsible choice. That company, it's a major tech corporation now. The people who took those early jobs, who took that risk, some of them are millionaires. But that's not even the point. The point is they got to live in San Francisco. They got to be part of something exciting. They got to take a chance. I got to sit in a bank for 30 years, processing loans for other people's dreams. When I was 28, I met someone. Her name was Claire. She was a teacher, just moved to town. We met at a coffee shop. Started talking. She was smart, funny, kind. We went on a few dates. She wanted to travel. Talked about spending summers abroad, teaching English in different countries, seeing the world. She asked if I'd ever thought about doing something like that. I said no, too unstable, too unpredictable. What about job security? What about benefits? What about retirement savings? She said some things were more important than security. I disagreed. Stopped calling her. She left town about a year later. I saw her obituary 5 years ago. She died at 68. The obituary mentioned her husband, her 3 kids, and the fact that she'd taught in 7 different countries over her career. There were photos from her memorial. Hundreds of former students from all over the world. She'd lived a full life, an adventurous life, a life that mattered to people. I'd lived in the same house, worked the same job, done the same things for 50 years. When I was 35, my best friend Tom came to me with an idea. He wanted to start a business, a restaurant. He had the concept, some savings, and he needed a partner. He said, "Come do this with me. You've always talked about doing something more interesting. Here's your chance." I said no. Too risky. Most restaurants fail. What if we lost money? What if it didn't work out? What if I ended up broke? Tom did it anyway, found another partner, opened the restaurant. It failed. Closed after 2 years. Tom lost most of his savings. But you know what? Tom tried again. Opened a different kind of business, then another. Some failed, some succeeded. He took risks his whole life. Some paid off, some didn't. Tom died last year at 73. At his funeral, people told stories. Funny stories, sad stories, crazy stories about all the things Tom had tried, all the adventures he'd had, all the ways he'd lived. When I die, there won't be stories. There won't be adventures to remember. There will just be, he was here, he worked at the bank, he was quiet, he kept to himself. That's not a life. That's an existence. After I got my diagnosis, I went home and I opened that journal. The one full of some days, pages and pages of things I was going to do. Someday, I'll go to Italy. Never went. Never even left the country. Never even applied for a passport. Someday I'll learn to play piano. There's been a piano in my living room for 20 years. I've never taken a single lesson. Someday I'll write that book. I have notebooks full of ideas. Never wrote a single chapter. Someday I'll reconnect with my college friends. I think about them sometimes. Wonder where they are. Never picked up the phone. Someday I'll try painting. Never bought the paints. Someday I'll take a cooking class. Never signed up. Someday I'll ask someone out. Never did. Someday I'll move somewhere new. Never looked at apartments, page after page of somedays. 40 years of intentions with zero action. And now I'm dying and someday is never. If you're waiting for the perfect time right now, I want you to ask yourself some hard questions. What are you putting off? What are you telling yourself you'll do later? What opportunities have you turned down because they scared you? When's the last time you did something that actually scared you? That pushed you out of your comfort zone? That made you feel alive? If you died tomorrow, what would you regret not trying? Not the things you tried and failed at, the things you were too afraid to even attempt. What dreams are you keeping in a journal instead of actually pursuing? If you can't answer these, you're making the same mistake I made. Here's what I understand now. Fear feels like protection, but it's actually a prison. Every time you say no to something because it's scary, you're choosing the prison. You're choosing a smaller life, a safer life, a life that fits in a 10-mile radius. But life isn't supposed to be safe. Life is supposed to be lived. Messy and scary and uncertain and full of risks that might not pay off. Because even when the risks don't pay off, even when you fail, at least you tried. At least you lived. At least you have a story. Playing it safe isn't actually safe. Playing it safe is just slow death. It's dying by inches, year after year, as your world gets smaller and smaller until you're 75 and you've never done anything. I have a neighbor, Margaret. She's 82, still drives, still travels, still tries new things. Last year, she went skydiving for her 81st birthday. Everyone thought she was crazy, too dangerous. What if something went wrong? She said, I'm 81. What's the worst that can happen? I die doing something exciting instead of dying in my sleep. Sign me up. She's lived in 6 different states, been to 30 countries, tried dozens of careers, been married twice, divorced once, widowed once. She has stories, adventures, a life that fills rooms when she talks about it. I've lived in one house, worked one job, never married, never traveled, never took a risk. Margaret is 82 and more alive than I've ever been. After my diagnosis, I thought about trying to do some of the things on my list. The doctor said 6 months. Maybe I could squeeze in a trip. Learn something new. Take a chance on something. But it's too late. The cancer is too advanced. I'm too weak, too sick. I spent 40 years waiting for the right time, and now I'm out of time. I sit in my house looking at that journal full of some days, and I think, I could have done any of these things. Nothing was actually stopping me except my own fear. I wasn't being practical. I wasn't being responsible. I was just afraid. Afraid of failure, afraid of looking foolish, afraid of the unknown, afraid of change. And that fear killed me, not the cancer. The cancer is just finishing what the fear started 50 years ago. If I could go back and talk to my 22-year-old self, here's what I would say. Stop being so afraid. Stop turning down opportunities because they're risky. Stop waiting for perfect timing. Stop choosing safety over living. Start saying yes to things that scare you. Start taking chances. Start failing at things instead of never trying. Start building a life instead of protecting yourself from one. And most importantly, start now. Not someday, not when you're ready, not when it's safer. Now. Because I promise you, someday never comes. Ready never happens. Safe is just another word for small, and one day you'll be 75 with a terminal diagnosis and a journal full of things you never did, and you'll realize you wasted your entire life being afraid. I'm 75. I have maybe 2 months left, maybe 3 if I'm lucky, probably less, and I can't do anything about it. Can't take the trips, can't learn the skills, can't take the chances. I'm too sick, too weak, too late. I spent my whole life preparing for a future I was too afraid to actually live. And now that future is gone. These last 4 months since the diagnosis have been the most honest of my life. Not because I've done anything different, but because I've stopped lying to myself. I'm not practical. I'm a coward. I'm not responsible. I'm afraid. I didn't choose safety. I chose fear. And fear killed me long before the cancer did. I'm not happier knowing the truth, but at least I'm honest. At least I can say, I wasted my life and I know it. That's not much. But it's more than I had when I was lying to myself. You have a choice right now, today. Keep waiting for someday. Keep turning down opportunities because they're scary. Keep choosing safety over life. Keep telling yourself you'll do it when you're ready. Or wake up. Realize that someday is a lie. That ready is a myth. That safety is a prison. That the only life you're actually protecting yourself from is your own. I can't make this choice for you, but I can tell you, you don't want to be 75 with a terminal diagnosis and a journal full of things you never did. Don't waste 50 years being afraid. Learn from my mistake.
Say yes to the scary thing, take the risk, move to the city, ask them out, start the business, book the trip, try and fail, live. The things you don't do will hurt more than the things you try and fail at. If this resonates, share this video. Leave a comment about one thing. You're afraid to do that, you're going to try anyway. Subscribe because I have a few more lessons to share before I run out of time. The clock is ticking. What are you waiting for?